Hello guys, welcome back to another tutorial. So today I'll be sharing with you guys how I made this beautiful kimono jumpsuit with drawstrings on the waist. It's a very free jumpsuit, so if it's something you're interested in, please keep on watching and let's get started with the video. So to make this jumpsuit, I'm going to be using this very stretchy fabric. I think it's called a lycra fabric, and this is because my jumpsuit is not going to be having a zipper. That's why I'm using this stretchy fabric. So right now I'll be drafting this the upper part of this jumpsuit on my pattern paper, and this is because of the wrapped part of it. That's why I'm drafting on my pattern paper. And the first thing I'll be doing is that I'll mark half an inch at the top of my paper. This is a guideline for my shoulder slope. So, and please note that my pattern paper is folded into two, so you can see it here. I folded it into two, so make sure yours is also folded into two. So right now I'll just go ahead and use my ruler to connect the points that I marked. So the next thing I'll be doing is that on that my shoulder line, I'll be marking my neck width, and I'll use 3 inches for that. So next I'll be marking the length of the sleeve. You know, this is like a boo-boo sleeve. Is not the normal shoulder that we normally mark. So from that neck width, I'll be using 15 inches for it. So depending on how long you want yours to be, I'm using 15 inches for mine. Then I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. So this is how long I want my sleeve to be. So right now I'll just go ahead and use my ruler to connect from that 1 inch I came down by to the 3 inches for my neck width. So next I'll be taking my shoulder to my bust point, and I'm going to be marking 10 inches. So my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches, and I'll go ahead and mark it on my pattern paper like so. Then I'll go ahead and use my ruler to connect. So the next measurement I'll be taking is my shoulder to waist measurement. My shoulder to waist is 16 inches, but I'm marking 17 inches because of my allowance. So right now I'll just mark 17 inches across like so, and I'll go ahead and use my ruler to connect. So I'm going to be marking the back neckline first because I'll be using it to cut out the front and back, and I'm using 1 inch as my neck depth for the back. So I'll just go ahead and connect like so. So right now I'll just go ahead and make a curve at that neckline. So now I'll be marking my armhole. That's how wide I want the armhole to be, and I'll come to that my shoulder slope that I came down by 1 inch. I'll mark 10 inches. So if you want your armhole to be wider than that, you can go ahead and extend. So the next thing I'll be doing is I'll come to my bust line like so, and I'll divide my bust circumference by 4. So whatever it gives me, I'm going to go ahead and add extra 5 inches to it. So it's actually 4 inches, but I added 1 inch for my allowance. So I'll be doing the same thing on my waist as well. I'll divide my waist circumference by 4, and I'll go ahead and add extra 5 inches. That's inclusive of my 1 inch allowance. So the next thing I'll be doing is that from that my bust circumference that I marked, I'll be coming down by 1.5 inch. So right now I'm just trying to mark my armhole. So I'll connect that 10 inch I marked for my armhole opening to the 1.5 inches I came down by. Then I'll just go ahead and use my ruler to connect it to the waist measurement that I marked. I hope you guys understand. Please, if you don't understand, you can go ahead and replay the video. I'm just trying to mark the armhole. So I'll just go ahead and give it a slight curve like so. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to give it a slight curve. This is my armhole, as you can see. So right now I'm going to be marking half an inch for my allowance on the shoulder. That's for joining the front and back together so it doesn't come out short. So I'll just go ahead and connect that half an inch that I marked. So we are done drafting this pattern, and right now I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out. So remember, we are using the same pattern to cut out the front, but right now we are going to be cutting it out first before we draw the pattern for the front. So right now I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be using this very stretchy fabric. That's why my pattern is not going to have a zipper, because it's going to be very easy for me to wear. So if yours is not going to have a zipper as well, you have to use this stretchy fabric. So right now I'll just go ahead and fold it into two, and I'll place my pattern paper on it before cutting it out. So now I'll just place my pattern paper on it. Remember, it's on fold, and I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So this is my back pattern. I'll just go ahead and place it aside. So now for the front pattern, I'll just open my pattern paper into two like so to draft the wrapped part of it. So right now I'll be connecting from my shoulder, from here, you can see where I'm pointing out, all the way to the waist. So I'll be showing you how to do that now. So my camera stopped recording at this point, but I'll show you guys how I did it. So what I did was I used my curved ruler like so. You can see how I placed it. So I just placed it and I drafted it all the way to the waist. So I just placed my curved ruler. You can see if you don't have a curved ruler, you can use your free hand. So I just placed it like so, and I used straight parts to draft it all the way to the waist. So you can see what I have. This is how yours should look, and that is that for the front. So I'll just go ahead and use my scissors to cut it out. So this is the part I'll be using for the front. I'm going to be cutting out two pieces of this. So to cut this, I folded my fabric into two as well, and right now I'll just place this part of the pattern paper on my fabric. So I'll be cutting out two pieces as well. So before cutting, I'm going to be adding about half an inch on this neckline like so. So the half an inch will be used to fold the neckline inside. So right now I'll just go ahead and cut it out, making sure that I add half an inch when cutting. So I'm done cutting, and I'm placing both of them together. I just want to show you guys how it will look when joining it. So it's like I said, it's a wrap. The upper part is wrapped. So right now it's time to draft the trouser part of this jumpsuit, and as you can see, my fabric is on fold. By folding it, I divided my hip circumference by 4, and I added extra 5 inches to it like I did at the upper part. So the first line you can see here is half an inch, and it would be my waistline. So from that waistline, I'm going to be marking my waist to my hip measurement, which is 9 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark it across the fabric like so. So right now I'll just use my ruler to connect the points that I marked. So the next measurement I'll be taking now is my waist to my crotch measurement, and my waist to crotch is actually 12 inches. But because this is a jumpsuit and I want it to be free at the down part, I'll be adding extra 2 inches to it, which will make it 14 inches. So normally my waist to crotch is 12 inches, but I'm adding 2 inches extra for it to be free, making it 14 inches. So now I'll just go ahead and connect the points that I marked. So now I'll come to my waistline and mark that my hip circumference divided by 4 and adding extra 5 inches, which will make it 15. So I'll be marking 15 on my waistline like so. I'll be marking the same 15 on my hip line as well. So I'll mark it on my hip line, and I'll mark it on the crotch line as well. So 15 on the waist, 15 on the hip, and 15 on the crotch line. So I'll be connecting those 3 points together like so with a straight line. So on my waistline, from that 15 inches I marked, I'm going to be dividing my waist circumference by 4. So my waist divided by 4 is 8 inches, but I'm going to be adding extra 5 inches like I did at the upper part. So remember, I wanted it to be very free, and I used 5 inches including my sewing allowance. So now I'll use my hip curve to connect that waist measurement that I marked. I'll just connect it to my hip line like so. So I'm just going to make a connection like so. So now I'll come to my crotch line, and remember that my hip divided by 4 is 10 inches. So I'm going to divide that 10 inches by 4 as well. So if my hip if my hip is 40 divided by 4 is 10. So I'm going to divide that 10 again by 4. So 10 divided by 4 will give me 2.5 inches. So you can see I'm just going to go ahead and mark that 2.5 inches here like so. So see where I'm marking it. I'm going to mark the 2.5 inches here. So right now I'm going to go ahead and mark that curve that our trouser normally have. By doing that, I'll come up by about 1 inch from here like so. You can see the way I placed my tape rule. So I'll use my curved ruler to make a curve from the 2.5 inches I marked at the crotch. I'll just go ahead and curve it to my hip like so. So just watch the way I placed my ruler. If you don't have this curved ruler, you can just use your hand to carefully trace it. So you can see how I'm marking it. So from this point, that's the crotch extension, I'm going to go ahead and mark a straight line all the way down. Since this is a free palazzo trouser, it's not going to be having any curve or anything. So I can't show you everything, but I'll just mark a straight line all the way down to where I want the length of my trouser to get to. So I'll just mark it all the way down like so. So we are done drafting the front pattern of this trouser, and we're just going to cut it out. I didn't add any extra allowance because all my allowances have been added when I was when I was drafting. So it's a free trouser, and it's just about half an inch we'll be using for the allowance. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it out like so. So now I'll be drafting the back part of this trouser, and the first thing I did is that I folded my fabric into two, and I made sure I left about 3 to 4 inches upwards before placing my front part on it. So the first thing I'll do right now is that I'll mark 1.5 inch inwards like so. You can see the way I'm marking it. Then I'll come up by 1 inch. If you have a bigger board, you can use about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. So right now I'll just go ahead and use my ruler to connect like so. I'll just mark it just for the way I'm placing the ruler. So I'll just connect it to this part I'm pointing at like so. So now remember that 1.5 inch that I removed here. I'm going to go ahead and add it to this part like so that it will make the front and back waistline equal. So I'll just add the 1.5 inches back to this part, and I will use my ruler to connect. So I'll just extend the line that I marked first. I'll just extend it like so. Then next, I'll use my hip curve to just connect that 1.5 inches that I extended. I'll connect it to my hip line like so. So you can see how I place the ruler. I'll just go ahead and connect it. So the next thing I'll be doing is that at this crotch part, I'm going to go ahead and extend it by 2 inches. You know the back is different from the front, so it can't be the same. So I'll just go ahead and mark 2 inches here, and I will extend it like so. So now from that 2 inches that I extended, I'll come down by about half of an inch. So now I'm going to be connecting this part to the half of an inch I came down by. So just watch how I'm going to do it. I'm going to just flip the front part up like so, and I will use my curved ruler to connect. So just watch the way I placed it. So I'm just going to go ahead and extend it from here down. So you see that 2 inches I came out by at the back. You see that 2 inches, I'm just going to mark it all the way down to the hem of my trouser, still with the front on top of it. I'm just going to mark that 2 inches all the way down. So that is that for the trouser pattern, and right now I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So now I'll be cutting out the pocket for this trouser, and my fabric is on fold, and I'll just go ahead and mark 8 inches. That's for the opening of the pocket. So it's 8 inches including the sewing allowance. So right now I'll just place my hand on top of it like so, and make a curve around it. So this is how wide my pocket would be. So all you need to do is just place your hand on top like this and just make a curve. So right now I've traced it out, and I'll just use my chalk to make the curve visible. So you can see that if I put my hands inside, it is free enough for me. So right now I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So I'll be cutting out 4 pieces of this pocket, 2 for both sides. So you can see I've cut it out and I have 4 pieces. So right now I'll be joining the front and back piece of the upper part of this jumpsuit together, and as you can see, this is the back that I placed first. So right now I'm going to be placing the shoulder of the front on top of the back like so, making sure the right sides are facing each other. So once I'm done matching them with each other, I'll just take it to my sewing machine and sew it with half of an inch. So I'm done sewing, and this is what I have, as you can see. So next thing I'll be doing is that I'm going to be joining the neckline, and I'm not going to be using a bias for this, but if you want to use a bias, is fine. For me, I'm just going to go ahead and fold it in like so, and I'll go ahead and run a stitch all the way to the other side. So I'm done sewing it, and this is what I have. You can see what it looks like. So the next thing I'll be doing is that I'm going to be hemming the sleeve, and what I will do is that I'll just fold it in like so and use about half of an inch to join it together. So this is what it looks like after joining it. So after that, I'll be joining the front and back pieces together, and I'll just place them on top of each other and use the 1 inch I left for my allowance. That's what I'm going to use to join them together. So I'm going to use my pin to hold them down so that it will be easier for me when I'm sewing. So I'll just use my pin to hold both sides together. So just make sure you arrange the wrapped part inside very well. You know you are going to be joining it together as well, so just arrange it inside very well. So right now I'll take it to my sewing machine and use the 1 inch allowance I left for the sewing allowance to join it. So I'm done joining, and I'll just place it aside so I can join the trouser together before joining the upper part to the trouser. So now I'll be joining the trouser together, and the first thing I'll be doing is I'll take my front pattern and I'll come down by about 3 inches from the waistline. I'll come down by 3 inches, and that 3 inches will be where my pocket will start from. That's where my pocket hole will start from. So I'm just going to mark the 3 inches and I'll make a notch at that 3 inches. So when you're making the notch, make sure that both sides of your front pattern are together. So now I'll be doing the exact same thing at the back. I'll place my back together like so, then I'll come to the waistline and measure 3 inches downwards before making a notch. So right now I'll be joining the pieces together, and the first one I'll be doing is the back. So I'll place both pieces together and use half of an inch to join it together. I'll be doing the same thing at the front as well. I'll place both pieces on top of each other and I'll use half of an inch to join as well. So remember that when you are joining, the right sides will be facing each other, so the wrong sides will be on the inside. So this is what I have after joining it. So now I'll be joining the pockets to the trouser, and I'm going to show you guys how I'll be joining them. So the first thing I'll be doing is that I'll take either the front or back piece of the trouser, and I'll take one piece of the pocket bag and place it on that part that I notched like so. So you can see that part I notched. I'll just place this open part, that's the entrance of the pocket. I'll place it on top like so, and I'll use half of an inch to join. I'll be doing the same thing at the other side as well, and I'll do the exact same thing for the other piece of the trouser. So this is what your pocket should look like after joining it. You can see how it looks. So right now I'll be joining the front and back piece together. So I'll be joining the crotch. That's the first thing I'll be doing. So I'll place both crotch together like so, and I'll use half of an inch to join it all the way down. So I'll just place them on top of each other like so, and I'll use half of an inch to join all the way to the other side. So after joining the crotch together, I'm going to be joining the sides. That will include the pocket. So just follow my finger and see how I'm going to be doing that. So I'm just going to take it. I'll just use half of an inch to sew the sides, including the pocket. So I'm just going to take it down here like so. Then I'll go ahead and join the pocket using half of an inch. So just follow my finger. So I'm going to be doing the exact same thing at the other side as well. So I'll use half of an inch to join all the way down. So this is what it looks like after joining. You can see how it looks. So I'll just push the pocket inside. That's after I turned it to the right side. So I'll just push the pocket inside and the trouser is ready. So right now I'll be joining the upper part to the trouser part of the kimono jumpsuit. So right now I'll flip both sides to the wrong side, and I'm going to take the front piece. I'll place it on top of the front of the trouser. Please make sure you note the front and back of trouser so you don't make a mistake. So make sure you note the front part and back part of the trouser. So right now I'll just go ahead and pin it down like so. So in case it's difficult for you to note the mid part of your top before joining into the trouser, you can go ahead and fold the top into two and make a notch to be easier that way. But for me, I know the mid part already, and right now I'm just going to go ahead and pin it all the way around the trouser. So after pinning it round, I'll just take it to my sewing machine and use half of an inch to join both the trouser part and the upper part together. So after joining, this is what I have, as you can see. So right now I'm going to be opening this part up so that the rope for the drawstring will be able to pass through. So right now I'm just going to use my seam ripper to make a hole there of about half of an inch. So once you're done opening it, just make sure your finger can enter inside, so you know the opening is enough. So right now at the hole that I opened, I'm going to make a stitch round it, so it will be easy for me to pass my drawstrings inside. I'll just make a stitch round it like so. So I'm done sewing that part, and right now I've gone ahead to cut out the casing for the drawstring, and the width is about 2 inches. So you have to measure around your waist to know the length. So the measurement around your waist will determine the length of the casing. So now I'll be showing you guys how to attach the casing. So you're going to attach it from the inside, and the first thing I'll be doing is I'll fold this part in, that's the edge. I'll fold it in by about 1/2 inch. Then I'll go ahead and place it on top of the upper part, on top of it like so. I hope you can see it. I'm placing it on the wrapped top side, so that when I flip it over, I'm going to be sewing it downwards. So right now I'll place it, let me show you guys again. I'm placing it on the stitch of the upper part. You can see it's the upper part I'm placing it on, not the lower part. So you can take your time to rewatch if you are confused about it. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch on top of the stitch that I used to join the upper part and the lower part together. So I'm going to stitch it round. So this is what you should have after stitching it. You can see that the stitching is on the upper part, not the lower part. So this is what you should have after stitching. So you can go ahead and trim off the excess allowance, so that when you are folding the casing on top of the trouser, it's easy for the drawstrings to enter inside. So I'm just going to trim out all the excess allowances now. So after trimming off the excess allowance, I'll just go ahead and fold in about 1/2 inch, and I'll run a stitch on it. So you can see how I'm folding it. So I'll fold it all the way around and run a stitch on it. So this is what I have after doing that. You can see how neat it looks, and you can see that my hole is still there. You can see it. So you can see how neat it looks. Even on the outside, you can see how it looks like. So right now I'm gonna head to cut out the rope for my drawstring, and the width is 2 inches as well, and the length is up to you. You can use as much as 1 yard, that's 60 inches I mean, or 2 yards, depending on how long you want it to be. So I'm going to fold it like this, and I'll run a stitch on top of it. So I'll just fold it and I'll sew it all the way down. So this is what I have after sewing. So I'll be using a safety pin to put it inside the casing, and remember I'm going to be putting it from the outside, not from the inside. So this is what it looks like after that. You can see what it looks like. So all you need to do is just pull it whenever you wear it, depending on how tight you want it to be. And the last thing you'll be doing is just to hem the down part of your trouser, and we are done with this tutorial. Please, if you enjoyed the video and you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe. You can also go ahead and like the video. You can share it as well. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.